Hey, so we're now on the fourth video of the series on making this tray for y'all. So first things first, the haircut. Look at that, huh? I told the gal, can you make it really short? And she did. So get what you pay for, right? Anyhow, good haircut and a bad haircut is like a 5-day difference, I guess. We're moving on. So, what we've got is the difference between GFRC and concrete. A little lesson here. So concrete is cement, Portland cement, which is, I think, lye and sand. And then it has mixed that with pebbles or some kind of aggregate to make concrete. What we use with GFRC, and the company I use is Buddy Rhodes. I think there's like 2 or 3 companies that make this stuff. It uses a polymer and a couple different chemicals in there as binders, so it doesn't use aggregate. What that means is I can make a thinner mix. Like for instance, my concrete countertops are 2 inches thick. These boards are only 3/4 of an inch thick because the polymer that's used in the water reducer chemicals that are used to bind everything together allow for the same tensile strength in 3/4 of an inch as you would find in maybe 1.5 inches thick concrete material. Anyway, and also it starts out in a white powder, and it's incredibly thin. It's a lot, the consistency of I guess some granular. If you can imagine all-purpose flour with a little bit of grittiness in it, maybe it feels like sand, but it's actually these little polymer beads. And so the process is pretty cool. What I'll do is I'll take and it's baking, not cooking, because it's all chemistry. Cooking is taste. So what I've got is 1.5 to 1 3/4 pounds of water. I don't know why they go pounds, but they do. This is actually 1.6 pounds of water. Here is the pigment, because you're going to go with it's going to be black. It doesn't look like very much, but oh my gosh, this stuff packs a punch. Just a little bit goes a long way. I probably won't even use the full amount here. And the pigment is to taste. I mean, you know, you can make it as dark or light as you want. And because it's a white base, I can really play with the colors. I've only been playing with grays and different shades of gray. But it would be fun to do some blues or greens at some point, because there's pigments of all colors of the rainbow. So that would be kind of cool. Then I have this stuff here. It's one fluid ounce of water reducer, and what that'll do is it'll take a mix that's kind of chunky, maybe a peanut butter consistency. Pour 1 ounce of that stuff in there, and it flows like pancake batter. Pretty sweet. But what it doesn't do is it does not affect the strength of the pour. Now of the tray rather, but you got to be careful. You can't put too much in there, because then it will actually start to separate the material. And now the first coat, it's a 2-part pour. The first mix, I'll put everything together that I just talked about. I'll put 10 pounds of this stuff and into the water and the pigment into here. Mix that up with a little bit of the water reducer in this bucket, and then pour that into this mold, and I'll make it only about 1/4 of an inch out of the 3/4 will be this mix, and then I'll let that sit, and I'm going to take a little video of that in a little bit. I'll let that sit for probably about a half hour until it starts to get tacky, and I'll show you that later. And then I will add this stuff. Now these are glass fibers, and it's 1/3 pound of glass fibers, and I'll add that to the mix and pour that in, and that's the backing layer, and that actually gives you the strength. If I just did this stuff with the water reducer, it would break. It would be okay, but it wouldn't survive the test of time. You couldn't do a drop test on it. But once you put this stuff in there, holy buckets, just rock solid. And then I'll let that sit, and I can really let it sit for 16 hours, and it'll be ready to go, as opposed to concrete, which is 3 days, 2 to 3 days, depending on the temperature and humidity. This stuff's pretty quick, relatively. I usually let it sit for 2 days, just because I've had instances where it hasn't really set up for 2 days, or in 16 hours rather. And then I demold it and start the finishing process, which thankfully for this stuff isn't that time intensive, which I really enjoy. With concrete, oh my goodness, with the slurry coats and all kinds of other crap, it's a real pain in the butt. But so let me explain these clamps real quick. So in the past, what I've done is I've taken caulk, and I think I mentioned this in one of the other videos, taking caulk and put it into this seam here. There's caulk here, but I put caulk here and to keep the concrete from going underneath the wood, because this is an inverted pour. What you're looking at here is the bottom of the tray. So when I pull it out of the mold and flip it, that'll be the top. So these clamps prevent, they just hold that piece of wood down, so I don't have to use caulk to keep things out from going underneath the wood. Kind of pretty easy stuff, but I don't know, I feel the need to explain all kinds of detail. And then here's the all thread running through, and it has epoxy in each one of these connecting points. So this all thread is part. So this, if I were to take the clamps off, the 2 bars and these pieces of wood come out as one piece, all flat and beautiful. And each of these pieces of wood has polyurethane on it, been sanded, and as smooth as a baby's butt, and protected so it won't absorb the moisture from the concrete. Very important. All right, it looks like we've been doing this for about 7 minutes, and you are probably bored out of your mind, so on to the next video.